A Massachusetts police chief is nearly caught with his pants down after allegedly soliciting a woman for sex. Law&Crime obtained the criminal complaint that contains all the shocking details. This is Inside the Crime, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Elizabeth Millner. By the way, there's a reason Law&Crime is the go-to spot for true crime content. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest personal injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys and have recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million when insurance offered just $350,000. And in Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million, 40 times the insurer's offer. Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to fight for what you deserve, you can even start a claim from your phone. So if you're injured, you can start a claim at forthepeople.com/insidethecrime. Click the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. This case came to light just last week when the police chief was caught in the parking lot of a local school. But as always, there's a lot more to this story. Michael Alibozek was the police chief of the Cheshire Police Department, a position he's held since June of 2022. But now his career is in jeopardy. Let's dive into what police say happened. Last week on November 6th, a woman created an online ad. We don't know what website the ad was placed on, and there's a reason. This was all a part of an undercover operation. A UC or undercover officer placed the ad specifically on a site for independent escorts, agency escorts, and other adult service providers. The UC even used the app Callyo to set up undercover phone numbers to call or text potential offenders. But also on the flip side, law enforcement uses it to contact victims too. In this case though, the UC got a text from a man who police say made his intention clear, and that man allegedly was Chief Alibozek. Those messages came in shortly before 9 p.m. on November 6. According to his criminal complaint, the messages marked in came from Michael. The messages marked out came from the woman who police say Michael had no idea was an undercover officer. Here's what they say according to police documents. Michael, you free for outcall? Undercover officer, yes. Michael, willing to come to Adams? Undercover officer, where in Adams? Michael, East Road, just over the Adams-Cheshire line. Undercover officer, any chance you can come a little more south? Michael, really don't want to go out. It's okay if you don't want to come here. My daughter will be home at 10:30ish, so it has to be a quickie. Undercover officer, I just don't love just going to Rando's house. Ha ha ha, no offense. Any chance we can meet like down the road first or do a car date? Michael, if it's quick, we can meet at Huzak, then maybe come to my house, but just need to be back and you out before my daughter gets home. I live about a mile from the school. Undercover officer, okay, I can do that. What services do you want so I can give you the price? What services do you want? Huzak isn't far from me at all. Michael, just a half hour. Or do you want specifics? Undercover officer, well, babes, price also depends on specifics. Michael, meet you by the football field parking lot. You're not LE, are you? Undercover officer, hell no, I'm not risking getting in trouble. I'm on my way. Are you LE? Michael, okay, where are you coming from? And I'll meet you there. Hell no. Undercover officer, Pittsfield Lanesboro line. Wait, you didn't tell me what you wanted. Michael, want to bend you over and F you. Undercover officer, ooh bet, I'll meet you in 15. What kind of car will you be in? I'm driving a RAV4. Michael, Toyota pickup black. How far away are you? Undercover officer, currently 10 minutes. Michael, okay, just pulled in. Sure you don't just want to meet me at my house, it's 2 minutes up the road. Undercover officer, okay, I'm almost there. The last message Michael allegedly sent to the woman was at 9:43 p.m. on November 6th. Around 9:45, officers arrived to the school in an unmarked car. When investigators drove through the parking lot, a black Toyota Tacoma pulled up. Officers told Michael to get out of the vehicle and, according to the complaint, placed him in handcuffs shortly after. This time, Michael was on the opposite side of the Miranda rights. Instead of reading them, they were being read to him. Michael reportedly claimed this was all a big misunderstanding. According to his complaint, he told officers he was on the website to begin with to try to get girls off the street. He claimed he met up with the women, talked to them, even bringing them food, and attempted to set them straight. He's claimed he's done this with about 4 or 5 women in the past. He claims the meetups aren't sexual, they are to get them on a straight line. According to court documents, the police chief claimed he discovered the escort website about a year ago. He met with a Russian woman from Pittsfield, another woman from Lenox, and that those specific women haven't been back on the site since, and that he hopes they're doing well. Michael allegedly told the officers he believes the women will corroborate his story, but there's a problem. he wouldn't have a way of getting a hold of them. The report noted Michael Alibozek is married with 2 kids. I mean, he pointed one of them out in the text messages. But he told the arresting officers his wife wouldn't approve of him meeting with these women. And the night he was arrested, she was actually in Boston for a work training. When officers searched Michael's car, they found more than $500 cash. Investigators believed they had enough to make an arrest, and they did. Michael was charged with soliciting sex for a fee. Following his arrest, he was relieved of duty and placed on administrative leave. His access to the police station and his police-issued firearm were seized. The town of Cheshire even had to hold an emergency meeting to appoint an acting chief, and the matter had to be reported to the Massachusetts Post Commission. He's bailed out of jail since, and he pleaded not guilty to his charge. His attorney told NBC Boston he is going to be forwarding an aggressive defense that will dispute the charges. His defense team and our investigators are following up on information provided to us that I think will be very helpful to his defense and possibly will lead to an exoneration of him. He's a very solid citizen, and it's a shame that this charge took place. I understand that the DA and the state police have a job to do. We're also going to be aggressively defending him. We do have viable, very substantial defenses we're going to be raising. I'm joined now by criminal defense attorney Will Corman. Will, thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like, Will, it's pretty obvious that officials were going to put Michael Alibozek on administrative leave, but just reading through the criminal complaint, I was kind of like, wow, especially when he asked the woman/undercover officer if she was law enforcement. What stood out most to you kind of reading through his criminal complaint?
Well, I mean, one of the, I think, most troubling aspects of this is it's twofold. One
Mm-hmm.
is he keeps talking about the fact that the undercover officer needs to be gone by the time his daughter gets home, and
Yes.
I think that's particularly troubling. Here we have a gentleman who was the chief of police of a town, and he is bringing home what he thinks is a sex worker to his actual house, knowing full well that his daughter may be getting home any minute now. And that's troubling. It shows a compulsion. It shows an inability to even conform his conduct, despite the fact that he knows his daughter is coming home literally within any moment. He puts in the chat, you need to be gone by 10:30. My daughter is going to be home then. And he says it at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty shocking just reading through all of those messages. And I think when they came to kind of a term where they would meet up at the middle school/high school parking lot, and sure, it was around nighttime, but it's still pretty brazen to just do it kind of out in the open. What's your reaction to him being arrested in a parking lot of a high school/middle school?
Well, again, I think it goes to show the compulsion. I mean, again, he's no stranger to the community, and here he is
Right.
willing to drive his own car to a public area that all sorts of individuals have rights of access to. My high school, my kid's high school is right up the street. There's activities at night, there's parent-teacher conferences sometimes, there's PTA meetings, there's all sorts of things. People are in and out of that parking lot all the time. Like you said, this wasn't a meetup at 2 or 3 a.m. It was around 9:30 at night when those things are still happening.
Yeah, yeah. And then I know the arrest was a part of a bigger operation, but as a criminal defense attorney, do you see another criminal defense attorney saying that this was entrapment?
So I've tried those entrapment cases
Hmm.
before, and despite our best efforts, what the prosecutors are going to do is they're going to show this entire conversation between the ex-chief of police and the undercover officer. And in those conversations, he's the one who reaches out first. He talks about having sex. He talks about when they can meet up. He talks about exactly explicitly what he wants to do. And to now allege that it's entrapment, that's difficult to do. It's a tough road to hoe, and I don't think it's there.
Yeah, it is a pretty tough road, especially when he was kind of saying that he was helping these women turn over a new leaf, trying to get them, I guess, out of the business in a way. But then those text messages, always going back to those where he wanted to, excuse my language, bend her over. What's your reaction to just his change of story as soon as he was pretty much busted?
I mean, whenever we see these sort of to catch a predator cases or anything along those lines, the most common refrain that we as the public hear is, well, I wasn't actually going to have sex with this person. I was
Right.
meeting up with them to tell them how dangerous it would be if I were a psychopath or if I were a murderer. We hear that all the time. It's never true. If this guy has actually, helped some women turn over a new leaf, that's fantastic. It really doesn't appear as that was what was going on here.
Yeah, and I know we had spoken about him in the text messages talking about his daughter coming home, but I think also one big thing that stood out to me was him telling the other officers who arrested him that his wife wouldn't approve of it. This when he was still going with the story that he was just helping these women. But what do you make of just that this is supposed to be a family man, the chief of police, and then he's caught doing this?
Well, obviously, I don't know the person individually. I don't know what he's going through, but what I can say is this. In my practice, both as a criminal defense attorney and then once upon a time as a prosecutor, you really do see every level of society. You see all types of individuals who get charged with these offenses, ranging from attorneys to, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. I mean, it really is anyone and everyone.
And then I know when officers, according to the police report, when they searched him, he did have more than $500 of cash on him. I imagine a defense attorney is going to say that this was for personal use, but I also imagine prosecutors will say this is proof that he was planning on paying for sex. But what are your thoughts kind of on both ends of the spectrum there?
Again, it's a lot of money, but it isn't such an absurd amount of money that someone could explain why they had, $5,000 in their pocket at 9:30 at night on a school night, as it were. But no, I do think that the prosecutors are going to talk about exactly that this is the amount of money or close to the amount of money that this was going on, that, she had quoted amount of money, he had money on him. If he had no money on him, then perhaps, just perhaps, his argument that I was going to try to talk this young lady out of, committing these acts, that could hold water. But here we have a guy with money in his pocket. It's kind of hard to make that argument.
Yeah, and a lot of money too. I know you mentioned 5,000, but it was 500. I wish, someone just had $5,000 just lying in their pocket. That would be great. I wish I could have $5,000 lying in my pocket, but still $500 is a lot of money. The incident was reported to the Massachusetts Post Commission. For those who are not from Massachusetts, what does this exactly mean?
Sure. So there's a commission that was created in order to determine whether or not law enforcement personnel should maintain their licenses. And anytime law enforcement is arrested, not even convicted, but arrested, it has to be reported to that commission so they can decide what actions, if any, they want to take against an individual's license.
So it's kind of like an internal, kind of internal affairs just for the state kind of sort of thing?
It is. It's not specific to internal affairs. It's not department by department. It's statewide instead.
Gotcha. And do you see a world where there's a possibility he can keep his job after this arrest? We know he's on administrative leave. He had to turn over his town issued weapon, all of that. But do you see a possibility he can still remain in his position after maybe this is all sorted out in the courts?
I think it's very difficult when members of law enforcement get arrested for any crime. It doesn't matter what it is. We expect law enforcement to have a certain level of gravitas, to have a certain level of professionalism. And once somebody is arrested, again, I suppose there can be outliers, but I think that once somebody is arrested for any crime, it's then difficult for them to go back and do their job.
Yeah, and what do you think this says to the community in terms of their trust of other officers who are there to protect and to serve them? And then, you see this in the news that he was busted for allegedly soliciting sex for money. What are your thoughts on how the community might react to this arrest?
Well, it's also important to remember that the area where this case took place or where this arrest took place, this is a pretty rural area of Massachusetts. It's on the western border, on the New York border. There are no huge major metropolitan areas near there. So that's sort of a long-winded answer to your question. This is not a big booming metropolis with hundreds of police officers. It's a very small police force. It's a very small community. So the fact of the matter is this guy knows everyone in the community and everyone in the community knows him. So I think it would be very difficult for him to go back and perform his job accordingly.
And even that, to some extent, his family, I can imagine kind of maybe what, I hate to say the rumor mill, the gossip mill kind of going on, but just I imagine with it being such a small town that a lot of people are talking, and I can only imagine how his family is feeling. His daughter was mentioned in this arrest report as kind of a cover up in a way to get the woman out who turned out to be a UC, all of that sort, but also that he's married. What are your thoughts on just how maybe some people in the town might have some type of reaction specifically towards his family, even though they didn't do anything?
I would say this, the vast majority of crimes carry with it collateral consequences that go far beyond the individual themselves who's charged. So it doesn't matter what crime you're charged with, family members get involved and family members are hurt. And the more salacious the crime is, I think the higher the risk or probability that family members are going to be hurt and impacted by the actions of the individuals.
And we do know that recently he pleaded not guilty to his charges, and his defense attorney says that she plans to aggressively defend him. What do you see happening next in his case?
Well, one of the punchlines about a charge like this is this. This is not, although it's a serious offense, it is certainly not the most serious offense by any stretch of the imagination. It is not unusual for people who are charged with this crime to get some period of unsupervised probation with some terms and conditions that surround it. Obviously, since he is a public figure, I think the district attorney's office will take it much more seriously. They may be looking for a greater punishment than they would for just some random person off the street, but nevertheless, the likelihood of this guy doing any time or anything along those lines, that's just not realistic.
Do you think there's a possibility his charges down the line could get dismissed? I know we were talking a little bit earlier about possibly the defense being entrapment, but do you see that this case could go all the way, maybe up until trial by any chance?
Again, what we know about this case so far, looking at the text messages back and forth between this gentleman and the undercover officer, I think it'd be very difficult to try this case. Not impossible, but difficult.
And I know as a criminal defense attorney, obviously you get your client's point of view and then you get the other side's point of view. And sometimes that other side can present body cam or body worn footage. How difficult is it when you kind of see the body worn footage kind of playing out in real time when you finally get to watch it and it's not necessarily matching up to what your client has described that had happened? How difficult does it make it to defend your client when that ends up being the case?
I mean, I would say this, while I appreciate my clients telling me their version of events, if their version of events matched exactly what happened, then chances are they wouldn't be arrested for a crime.
And that is very true. That is very, very true. And I know some people, obviously, we're all human, right? And we all kind of, are scared of authority, even if that is our criminal defense attorney. But I know for sure that maybe somehow I see this kind of working out where, to your point, Will, that I don't think he'll be serving jail time, but I'm wondering, will this case even advance more to upgraded charges, possibly dismissed charges? It'll be interesting to see how this case continues to unfold. Will Corman, I want to thank you so much for your time and your insight into this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
According to NBC Boston, Michael Alibozek is due back in court for a pretrial hearing on December 22nd. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Be sure to check out more episodes on the Law and Crime YouTube channel. I'm Elizabeth Millner, and this has been Inside the Crime.